The halls of Casterly Rock were colder than usual, even though it was deep summer. Tywin Lannister sat alone in his chamber, hands resting on the carved lion heads of his chair. His eyes, sharp as ever, stared at the letter he had just received from one of his spies in King's Landing. It wasn't the first report about Jaime and Cersei, but it was the final confirmation. He had known something was wrong for years. The way Jaime looked at Cersei, too soft, too possessive. The way Cersei clung to Jaime in times of fear or pride. A father sees everything, even what he refuses to admit. But now, written in ink on the old Raven scroll, it was clear. They weren't just close, they were lovers. And the children, Joffrey, Myrcella and Tommen, were not Robert Baratheon's, they were Jaime's. Tywin's jaw tightened. His hand slowly curled into a fist. The legacy he built, the name he had protected with blood and fire, all of it was a lie now. His grandchildren were bastards. His daughter had broken the laws of gods and men. And his son, the Golden Lion, the Kingsguard, had fathered children in secret. He could not ignore this anymore. He stood up slowly, his red cloak sweeping the stone floor. He called for Kevin, his brother, to prepare the horses. They were riding for King's Landing at first light. Cersei sat in her chambers, inside the Red Keep, combing her hair. She looked at herself in the mirror, proud and strong. Joffrey was on the throne. The Lannisters ruled the 7 kingdoms. Everything was as it should be, but she didn't expect the knock on the door, nor the face of her father, standing like a mountain in the doorway. "Father," she said, trying to smile. Tywin didn't return it. "We need to speak, now." She followed him in silence to the small council room. Jaime was already there, waiting, fidgeting slightly. When he saw Tywin's face, all color drained from his own. "I know," Tywin said, his voice calm but deadly. "I know everything." The silence after those words felt heavier than stone. Jaime tried to speak first. "Father, do not call me that right now," Tywin cut him off. "You dare shame our house with such filth? You broke your vows, and you, Cersei, you've defiled the Lannister name." Cersei stood tall. "They are my children. They are strong, proud, and smart. They will rule." "They are bastards," Tywin growled. "Born of sin and weakness. If Robert were alive, he's not," she snapped. "And Joffrey is king." Tywin slammed his fist on the table. "A king built on lies. Do you think the realm will stay silent when they learn the truth? Ned Stark tried to speak it once, and you had him killed. But secrets rot from the inside. They always come out." Jaime stood now, eyes low. "I never wanted this. I never wanted to hurt our family. But you did," Tywin said, staring at him coldly. "You both did. You've risked everything. Our name, our power, our legacy. Do you even understand what you've done?" Cersei's voice dropped, shaking now. "So what now? You'll kill us? Tell the world?" Tywin looked at them both, with the weight of 1,000 years in his gaze. "No, I will not kill you. But I will fix this, and you will obey." Cersei's eyes narrowed. "And what if I don't?" He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Then I will burn the lies down myself, and I'll let the truth rip through this kingdom like wildfire." "Do not test me, Cersei." Jaime said nothing. He just sat down again, defeated. The lion had no roar left. That night the Red Keep didn't sleep. Ravens flew from the tower. Quiet messages went out to Dorne, to the Vale, even to the north. Tywin had begun something dangerous. Something that could change the war, the throne, and the future of Westeros forever. The sun hadn't even risen, but the Red Keep was already buzzing. Servants whispered in corridors. The guards looked sharper, stiffer, as if they sensed something foul hanging in the air. The lion had roared in secret, and soon the whole jungle would hear it. Tywin sat alone in the Tower of the Hand, staring into a goblet of wine he hadn't touched. He didn't drink when the realm was in danger, and right now, his entire legacy stood on the edge of a cliff. He had sent messages to every major house in Westeros, carefully written without admitting too much. But each raven carried a warning. Change is coming. And to some the message was more direct, asking for allegiance should something unexpected shake the throne. Tywin knew how to play the game. He wasn't just exposing a secret. He was preparing the board, But not everyone could be controlled. In the shadows below the keep, Tyrion Lannister stood at the window of his chambers, a goblet in one hand, a knowing smile on his lips. "So, father finally grew a spine," he muttered, watching a raven take flight. Varys was standing behind him, his hands folded neatly. "This is dangerous, even for him. Exposing the Queen and the Lord Commander of the King's Guard. The realm will bleed if this secret reaches the wrong ears." Tyrion turned. "It already has. It bled when Ned Stark died, when Joffrey took the crown, when my sister started whispering in the king's ear like a snake." Varys sighed. "But chaos, dear Tyrion, is a ladder, and some climb it faster than others. Your father has lit the match. Now let's see who burns." In the Queen's chambers, Cersei paced like a caged animal. She had always known this day could come, but she thought she could stop it, control it, twist it. Now with Tywin moving so fast, she was cornered. She turned sharply to Jaime, who stood leaning against the window, his eyes distant. "You just stood there," she hissed. "You didn't say a word. You let him threaten me, our children." Jaime didn't look at her. "Because he was right," Cersei froze. "What did you say?" "I said he was right," Jaime replied, still calm. "We were reckless. I broke my oath. You made Joffrey king. We played gods, and now we act surprised that there's fire at our door." Cersei stepped closer, her voice low and venomous. "Don't you dare act like you're above this. We did this together. You loved me, I still do," Jaime said. "But I also see the truth now. Joffrey, he's cruel. He's not fit to rule. And if father exposes the truth, maybe that's the only way to stop more blood." Cersei slapped him. The sound echoed in the room, sharp and raw. Tears formed in her eyes, but she turned away. She wouldn't let him see her break. "If he ruins this, he ruins us all." Jaime watched her, sadness in his eyes. "Maybe we were already ruined." Meanwhile, in the throne room, King Joffrey sat slouched in his seat, bored, chewing on a chicken leg while a servant read a list of petty disputes. Suddenly a king's guard whispered in his ear. Joffrey's eyes flared wide. He stood up quickly, sending the leg flying. "What did you say?" The knight lowered his head. "Lord Tywin has requested an urgent session of the small council. All members are expected. He says it is a matter of royal blood." Joffrey's face turned red. "He dares summon me? I am the king." But for the first time in a long while, Joffrey looked nervous. When the council gathered, it was a full room. Tywin, Tyrion, Pycelle, Varys, Littlefinger, and even Grand Maester Qyburn. Cersei arrived late, her jaw set, her gown blood-red. Jaime stood beside her, silent as always. Joffrey stormed in last, fuming. Tywin stood and turned to them all. "Before we begin, let me be clear," he said. "And what is spoken today will remain in this room until I decide otherwise. The matter touches the crown, the realm, and the very bloodline of House Baratheon." Joffrey barked, "Speak plainly or shut your mouth." Tywin ignored him. "I have gathered evidence," he continued, "that the children of Queen Cersei are not the true-born heirs of King Robert Baratheon." Gasps filled the chamber. Tyrion raised an eyebrow. Varys remained still. Littlefinger, ever the opportunist, said softly, "Those are dangerous words." "My lord, they are the truth," Tywin answered coldly, "and I will not let a lie rule Westeros. Not while I draw breath." Joffrey stood, pointing a shaking finger. "You traitor! You dare speak against your own blood!" "I speak for the future of this kingdom," Tywin said calmly. "And now, the realm must decide." Outside the chamber, the Red Keep pulsed with tension. Servants hurried past with red faces. Armies stirred. And far away in Dragonstone, a black banner with a red dragon flapped in the wind, as word of the coming storm began to spread. The small council chamber emptied slowly, the silence between the members thick and dangerous. No one dared speak openly, not yet, not with Tywin Lannister's declaration still echoing in their minds like a war drum. Joffrey had stormed out in a fury, kicking over a chair and screaming for someone to cut off Tywin's head. But no one moved. Even his guards didn't follow the order. That silence hurt Joffrey more than any slap. Cersei followed after him, heart racing, lips pale. She couldn't breathe. Tywin hadn't just threatened her. He had declared war on her family, on her children, on her love. She found Joffrey in the throne room, pacing like a mad dog. "He can't do this," Joffrey snarled. "I'm the king. I'll have him flayed alive, I swear it." "Lower your voice," Cersei hissed, grabbing his arm. "You're not a child anymore. You want to start a war with the man who holds our armies? He's an old man." "He doesn't scare me. He should," she cut him off. "Because Tywin Lannister doesn't make threats. He ends bloodlines." Meanwhile, Tyrion walked with Varys down the long stone corridor. "Quiet for a while, you know," Tyrion finally said. "I never thought I'd see the day Father exposed his own children. But now that it's happened, it feels very much like him," Varys nodded. "He believes in legacy, not love. And legacy, dear Tyrion, doesn't allow room for incest and bastard kings." Tyrion stopped, thoughtful. "This could tear the realm apart." "It already is," Varys whispered. "Ravens have flown in every direction. And don't forget, Stannis Baratheon still lives. He claimed this truth before. The moment he hears Tywin has confirmed it, he'll come for the throne again. And this time," Varys added grimly, "he may not come alone." At Dragonstone, the tide hit the rocks hard as Melisandre walked through the dark halls, her red robes flowing like fire. She found Stannis alone, staring into the flames in his war room. She smiled as she entered. "A raven has come. The lion has roared against its cubs." Stannis turned slowly, his eyes full of the fire's reflection. "Say it. Tywin Lannister has exposed the truth of Joffrey's birth. He calls them bastards. He prepares the realm for change." Stannis stood. "He's late." "I said it first. And they mocked me. Now they will kneel," she said. "With fire and sword they will kneel." Stannis placed his hand on the table. "Over the carved lion of King's Landing," called the banners, "back in the Red Keep." Cersei stood at the balcony of her chambers, watching the sun set over the city. She felt hollow. Her mind ran wild with possibilities: betrayal, exile, execution. Tywin hadn't publicly declared anything yet, but it was only a matter of time. Behind her, Jaime entered silently. He stood beside her, but the warmth between them was gone. There was only distance now. "What are we going to do?" she whispered. "I don't know," he said. "But Father won't stop. We can't let him destroy everything. Joffrey is king. Our son, he's not a good king, Cersei," Jaime said softly. "You know that. He's our son," she repeated, teeth clenched. "And I won't let Father erase him." "I won't let him erase us," Jaime looked down. "Then we'll have to fight him. But if we do, we may lose everything." Cersei turned, her eyes wild. "Then we fight. I'll burn this kingdom before I let him take my children." Jaime saw it then, the madness in her eyes. The same madness that ran in Targaryen blood. The same madness that made kings burn cities. Tywin sat at his desk again, writing another letter. This one would go to the Citadel. A formal request for a Grand Council to determine the legitimacy of Joffrey Baratheon's claim to the throne. He wasn't exposing the secret to destroy his house. He was doing it to reshape it. If the realm could be forced to accept a different heir, someone worthy, he would restore the honor that Jaime and Cersei had so carelessly shattered. Perhaps Tommen, perhaps someone else, but not Joffrey, not the mad cub. Suddenly, Maester Pycelle burst into the room, breathing heavily. "My lord," he wheezed. "A raven!" "From Dragonstone. Stannis Baratheon has declared his claim again. He calls your letter proof. He's raising his fleet." Tywin didn't flinch. He placed the letter down. "So it begins," he said. Outside the walls of King's Landing, the city stirred. Spies whispered to their masters. Goldcloaks questioned each other's loyalty. Across Westeros, swords were being sharpened again, because when a lion turns on its own cubs, the rest of the jungle sees weakness, and in the Game of Thrones, weakness is death. Night fell over King's Landing like a blanket soaked in oil, thick, heavy, and ready to burn. In the chambers beneath the great Sept, a secret meeting was already underway. Cersei, dressed in black, sat alone at the candle-lit table. Her eyes were sunken but alert. Two men stepped into the room quietly, Qyburn and Ser Merintrant. "I need your full loyalty," Cersei said, voice low. "Not to the crown, not to the realm. To me." They both nodded. She leaned forward. My father thinks he can shame me, control me like some common girl. But he forgets I'm the queen. And I've spilled blood before to protect what's mine." Qyburn smiled thinly. "What do you need, Your Grace?" "I need the lion to sleep." Trant looked confused. "You want us to kill Tywin?" Cersei's eyes burned. "No, not yet. I want you to remind him that even lions bleed. Scare him, humble him. Let him know the Queen has teeth." Qyburn raised an eyebrow. "If we make a move against Lord Tywin and fail, the whole city will fall on top of us." Cersei grinned coldly. "Then don't fail." In the Tower of the Hand, Tywin was reading another report from his informants in Dawn when a sound came from the corridor outside. Light footsteps, a whisper of armor. He didn't look up. "If you're here to threaten me, Cersei, send someone better. I don't have time for your theatrics." But it wasn't Cersei. A masked figure rushed in, dagger in hand. The blade came close, closer than it should have, slicing through the edge of Tywin's sleeve and nicking his shoulder. But Tywin moved faster than expected for an old man. He slammed a heavy gold paperweight into the attacker's face. Blood hit the floor. The attacker tried to flee, but was caught by Tywin's guards within minutes. When the mask was pulled away, it wasn't some faceless killer. It was a servant from the Queen's own household. Tywin's wound was shallow, but the message was deep. Cersei had made her first move. He didn't speak. He didn't shout. He simply stood and gave a single command: "Bring me Jaime." Jaime arrived just before dawn, tired-eyed and silent. "You sent for me?" he asked. Tywin nodded slowly. "Cersei tried to have me killed tonight," Jaime flinched. "You don't know that." Tywin's voice was ice. "The attacker came from her personal staff. Don't defend her. You know what she's capable of." Jaime looked away. "So what now?" "You want me to kill her." "I want you to choose," Tywin said. "You say you love her. Fine. But this house cannot survive both of you destroying it from the inside. If you stand with her, you become her. If you stand with me, I will protect your name, your honor, even your life. But she must be dealt with." Jaime's breath caught in his throat. He had fought wars. He had killed men. But nothing had ever felt as heavy as this choice. He left without answering. That same morning, Tyrion sat in the gardens with Bronn, tossing stones into the fountain. His face was unreadable. "You ever wonder," Tyrion said, "why all the smartest people in Westeros end up dead or drunk?" Bronn smirked. "Because the clever ones don't know when to run." "I'm thinking I should run now," Tyrion muttered. "But something tells me I'm too curious for my own good." Bronn tilted his head. "About what?" "My father hasn't revealed the secret to the realm yet. He exposed it in council. He sent letters to the great houses, but no word to the people. Why wait?" Bronn shrugged. "Maybe he's buying time." Tyrion stood slowly. "Or maybe he's planning something worse." Meanwhile, across the sea, a whisper of the Lannister scandal reached the ears of Daenerys Targaryen in Meereen. She stood atop her balcony, dragons circling in the sky behind her. "They fight among themselves now," said Ser Barristan. "The lion tears its own throat open." Dany smiled faintly. "Good, let them bleed. The more broken they become, the easier it will be to take back what's mine. But you'll need ships," he reminded her. "And allies." She turned to Missandei. "Send word to the Iron Islands. Tell them I will offer gold and fire for their ships. The Targaryens are coming." Back in King's Landing, Cersei waited for word from Qyburn. When he finally arrived, he looked grim. "He survived," he said. "But the message was sent." Cersei stood, fists clenched. "Then we hit harder next time." Qyburn hesitated. "Your brother, Jaime. He knows. I don't care," she spat. "If Jaime stands in my way, I will burn him too." Qyburn gave her a slow nod. "Then I'll begin the next phase." As he turned to leave, Cersei whispered to herself, her voice soft but deadly, "I will not be controlled. Not by a father, a brother, or a realm." And far above it all, ravens flew across Westeros. The truth was loose now. Tywin had broken the seal, and no force could undo what had been done. Winter was still coming, but so was fire and blood. The morning after the attempted assassination, the Red Keep was silent, but it wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that comes before a storm, when people walk softer, speak lower, and wait for the sky to crack open. Tywin Lannister stood by the window of his chambers, the wound on his shoulder wrapped tightly beneath his lion-embroidered cloak. His face remained calm, his eyes distant, but the rage inside him was carefully locked behind his lips like wildfire in a jar. Across from him stood Kevan Lannister. "I warned you," Kevan said in a low voice. "This was never going to be clean. Not with Cersei." Tywin didn't look at him. "I raised a daughter who thinks herself a dragon. But dragons burn too easily when left alone in the fire. You'll make her desperate," Kevan warned. "And a desperate Cersei is dangerous." Tywin turned slowly. "Then it's time to stop her before she burns the kingdom with her." Cersei knew the walls were closing in. Her spies whispered that Tywin had sent word to Highgarden and the Vale, promising new alliances if they accepted Tommen as king instead of Joffrey. He wasn't just exposing the truth anymore. He was replacing her son. That's when she made her decision. She summoned Qyburn and gave him her most dangerous order yet. "I want the Wildfire," she said. Qyburn blinked. "Your Grace?" "You heard me," she snapped. "The old stores, the ones buried beneath the city since the days of Aerys. I want enough to make the gods weep." Qyburn licked his lips nervously. "You intend to use it?" "If he tries to crown Tommen," Cersei whispered, "I'll crown him in green fire." Qyburn hesitated, then gave a slow nod. "As you wish, my queen." That same night, Jaime found Tyrion in the wine cellar. "You're drinking alone," Jaime said, stepping in. "I'm never alone when wine is present," Tyrion replied, raising his cup. "Would you like a drink, or are you here to lecture me about the collapse of our once proud house?" Jaime stepped closer. "I came to warn you." Tyrion leaned back, interested. "Now that's new. Go on. Father is planning to crown Tommen with the High Septon, with banners behind him." Tyrion's smile faded. "He's pushing Joffrey aside." Jaime nodded. "He says it's the only way to preserve our legacy." Tyrion looked down at his cup. "Joffrey won't take it well." "He already knows," Jaime said. "He's locked himself in his chambers, screaming, breaking things, threatening everyone." Tyrion sighed. "So who burns first, brother? The Mad King's widow or the boy born from lies?" Jaime didn't answer. Instead, he said, "If it comes to it, protect Tommen. He's just a boy." Tyrion nodded slowly. "And what about Cersei?" Jaime's eyes darkened. "I don't know anymore." The next morning, the court gathered in the Sept of Baelor. The bells rang, not for death, but for a new beginning. At the front of the Sept, Tywin Lannister stood tall, golden lion cloak flowing behind him. Beside him, Tommen sat nervously, his small hands shaking. The High Septon read from the Holy Book, preparing to bless the boy's claim, but Cersei was nowhere to be seen. Then the doors slammed open. She entered like a storm, dressed in crimson and gold, eyes blazing. Behind her, Qyburn and Ser Meryn followed closely. The crowd gasped. Tywin stepped forward. "You are not welcome here, Cersei. You dare crown one child while another lives?" she shouted, voice echoing. "You want to shame me, humiliate me in front of the realm?" "I want to save this kingdom from your madness," Tywin said. Cersei's face twisted. "Then burn with it." Suddenly, Qyburn stepped back, raising a torch. Beneath the Sept, buried in secret tunnels, barrels of wildfire waited. Lit fuses had been placed earlier, all leading to a single spark. But before Qyburn could drop the torch, Jaime appeared. He tackled Qyburn from behind, the torch clattering across the marble floor. Cersei screamed. "No, he's betraying us. He's betraying me." Guards rushed forward. Screams echoed. Tywin drew his sword. Jaime stood holding the torch now. "Stop this," he said to Cersei. "There's still time." Cersei stepped back, trembling. Her voice broke. "You would choose him over me?" "I'm choosing Westeros," Jaime said quietly. "I've killed one mad ruler. I won't let another take their place." Cersei's eyes filled with tears. "Then you're dead to me." Tywin stepped forward, grabbing the torch from Jaime's hand. With one gesture, he ordered the barrels be removed from beneath the Sept. The guards obeyed. Cersei didn't resist. She just stood there, broken, furious, and defeated. Later that evening, Tywin sat alone again. This time, he wasn't writing letters. He was watching the city burn from within, not by fire but by truth. Rumors had spread like a plague. The queen's children were illegitimate, her crown false, her love twisted. The realm was whispering, but he had won the battle. For now, Tommen would wear the crown. Jaime had chosen duty. And Cersei? She had lost everything, but Tywin knew better than anyone. A wounded lion is still dangerous, and Cersei Lannister had never been more dangerous than now. 2 days passed since the Wildfire incident, and the city still trembled. Whispers filled the streets like smoke. The queen had tried to burn the Sept. Her own brother stopped her. The old lion, Tywin, had crowned the younger boy Tommen as the new king. And Joffrey, now stripped of power, had vanished into the Red Keep, unseen, unspoken to. Fear and confusion ruled the capital now. The people didn't know who sat on the throne or who truly ruled, and that made them dangerous. Cersei stood at her window in the Queen's Tower, staring down at the city. Her dress hung loose, her hair undone. Her eyes were empty. She had lost everything. Joffrey refused to even speak to her. Tommen had been taken under Tywin's wing, surrounded by guards loyal to the old man. Jaime hadn't come to her since the Sept, not even once, and now, word had come from the north. Sansa Stark had fled her forced marriage, and the Tyrells were pressing for Margaery to become queen again. This time, married to Tommen, Cersei gripped the edge of the stone window until her knuckles turned white. "Everything I built," she whispered, "burned by my own blood." Behind her a knock came at the door. She didn't answer. But the door opened anyway. It was Joffrey. He stepped inside slowly, his eyes cold, not the boy she remembered. His hands trembled, but his voice was steady. "They've taken my throne." Cersei turned. "You are the true king." "No," he said flatly. "I was the lie. That's what they say now. You made me a lie." His voice cracked slightly on the last word, but his eyes stayed fixed on her. There was no warmth left in them. "I did it for you," she said, stepping toward him. "For us?" He didn't move. "They say I'm the son of your brother, that I'm a bastard, that I was never king." "They're wrong," she said, desperate now. "You are my son. You are a lion." Joffrey looked down at the dagger in his hand. Her breath caught. "Joffrey!" He didn't lift the blade. He didn't scream, he just walked to her and placed the dagger on the table. "I should kill you," he said quietly, "but I want you to live. I want you to see what it feels like to lose everything." Then he turned and walked out, leaving Cersei alone in the room with her shame and the weight of what she had created. Elsewhere in the Red Keep, Tyrion and Tywin stood on a balcony overlooking the training yard where Tommen was watching knights practice swordplay. "You're grooming him," Tyrion said. "I'm preparing him," Tywin corrected. "He'll be king in truth, not name." "You do know Cersei won't stop," Tyrion added. "She failed once. She'll try again." Tywin didn't look away from Tommen. "Then I'll have to stop her permanently." Tyrion turned. "Are you saying you'll kill your own daughter?" "I'm saying I'll do what needs to be done," Tywin said, his voice harder than steel. "House Lannister will not fall because of one woman's lust and madness." Tyrion's lips curled into a smile. "You always did believe the family name was worth more than the family itself." Tywin glanced at him. "She tried to murder me, twice. If she were anyone else, she'd already be dead." Tyrion raised his goblet in mock toast. "Father of the Year." That night, Jaime returned to Cersei's chambers at last. He expected fire, rage, screams, but instead she greeted him with silence. She stood by the fire, wine in hand, her figure still and statuesque, like a queen carved in ice. "You chose him," she said softly. "I chose peace," Jaime replied. "And I chose to protect our children," she turned. "You've taken everything from me, Jaime. I gave you my soul. My love, I bore your children. I hid your name to protect us." "I never asked you to," Jaime said quietly. "I would have faced the world with you, if you'd been honest." Cersei's eyes narrowed. "And now? What will you do? Kill me? Watch them crown Margaery? Let Tommen be molded into Tywin's perfect little puppet?" "I don't know," Jaime admitted. "But I know I can't follow you anymore. Cersei smiled bitterly. Then you're no longer mine. She stepped forward, placed her hand on his cheek and kissed him gently, not with passion, but with finality. Then she whispered, "When I rise again, don't beg me for mercy." The next morning, the court gathered once more. Tywin had called a feast in the great hall to honor King Tommen's new reign. Lords from the Riverlands and the Reach attended, and even a few wary bannermen from the north. But there was no Cersei, nor Joffrey, only silence where their names used to hold weight. Tommen, crowned in gold and crimson, looked out over the crowd. He smiled nervously, nodding to the nobles. Tywin sat beside him, proud, but in the shadows Varys watched closely, and in his sleeve he held a letter, sealed with a golden lion and soaked faintly in blood. The grand feast had all the usual splendor: roasted boar stuffed with plums, Dornish red flowing like rivers, and minstrels singing songs of peace and power. But beneath the silk and smiles there was tension, thick, invisible, and waiting to snap like a bowstring. Tywin Lannister sat at the high table beside Tommen, dressed in his golden armor, not for war but for ceremony. Across the hall, Tyrion drank slowly, eyeing the faces of the lords in attendance. Some looked pleased, others looked cautious, fearful. They knew what had happened. The whole realm knew now. Queen Cersei had been disarmed, her son Joffrey dismissed, and Tywin had pulled the strings once again. But power, Tyrion knew, wasn't real unless people believed it, and not everyone believed. Varys, dressed as modestly as ever, moved along the outer walls of the feast, speaking softly to passing guests, gathering whispers like threads in a web. He held the letter still, unopened, unread, but dangerous. It had arrived from the east, signed with a name the realm hadn't heard in years: Daenerys Stormborn. She had learned of the Lannisters' internal war, and she was watching. But Varys said nothing yet. He knew better than to play a card before the table was set. In the Queen's tower, Cersei Lannister sat in the candlelight, staring into a goblet of wine she hadn't touched. Her crown, once worn with pride, now sat on the floor beside her, dented, scuffed, almost forgotten. She had no throne, no power, and now no children by her side, but she wasn't broken. Qyburn entered without knocking. "It's time," she nodded slowly. "Are they in place?" "Yes," he said. "All four. And the poison?" "In the wine," Qyburn said softly. "As you requested." Cersei stood, no royal robes, just black, like mourning, but the look in her eyes was pure fire. "I gave them everything," she whispered. "My womb, my blood, my soul, and they buried me in shame." Qyburn didn't speak. He knew what this was, not a revenge plot, a reckoning. Back at the feast, Tommen raised his goblet timidly. "To House Lannister," he said, barely loud enough to carry through the room. Tywin placed a firm hand on the boy's shoulder, standing to support him. "To legacy," he added. "To truth. And to the realm." The hall erupted in applause, though not all clapped with full hands. Some only touched fingers. Some glanced around, waiting for the next move. That's when the doors opened. Cersei walked in, alone, unarmed, uninvited. But she didn't walk like a prisoner. She walked like a queen. The music stopped. All eyes turned. Even Tywin hesitated. Tommen stood confused. "Mother?" Cersei said nothing. She walked up the aisle, eyes scanning the crowd, finding Jaime first, his face frozen in disbelief, then Tyrion, who slowly stood, heart pounding. He knew that look, the look of a lioness ready to kill. She stopped in front of the high table and lifted her goblet. "I've come to drink to my son," she said. "To his reign and to his future." Tywin narrowed his eyes. "You're not welcome here." "Then kill me," Cersei said, turning slightly, arms open. "If I am a traitor, if I am the monster you made me, do it now, in front of them all." No one moved, not a soul. Cersei laughed softly. "That's what I thought." She turned back to Tommen, and her voice softened, motherly, warm. "I love you, Tommen. More than you'll ever know." He looked down at her, unsure. "Mother, please." "Oh, don't do this. I already did," she whispered, and then she drank the wine, a long, deep swallow. Gasps rippled through the hall. Tyrion's cup hit the table. "No." But it wasn't Cersei who dropped, it was Tywin. The Lord of Casterly Rock jerked, choked, his eyes wide with shock. He clutched his chest and collapsed, spilling his goblet across the floor. Panic, screams. Tommen shouted for the Meisters. Jaime leapt from the table, shoving chairs aside to get to his father. But it was too late. Tywin Lannister, Warden of the West, Hand of the King, Lord of Strategy and Ruthless Honor, was dead. Cersei stood still, watching the chaos, her face calm, and then she whispered, "Lannisters always pay their debts." That night, the city burned again, this time not in fire, but in fear. With Tywin gone, the throne was a question mark. Tommen, too young and too shaken, was silent. Jaime tried to take control. Tyrion warned him not to, but in the shadows a ship arrived at Blackwater Bay, quiet, unnoticed, and aboard that ship, a girl with silver hair. Daenerys had come to Westeros, and the war for the Iron Throne was no longer a family feud. It was a reckoning. The bells of the Red Keep rang low the next morning, not in celebration, but mourning. Tywin Lannister, the Lion of the West, was dead. No war, no sword, no rebellion had taken him. Only poison, only betrayal from within. And now the throne sat empty in truth, even if Tommen wore the crown. The boy king hadn't spoken since the feast. He sat pale and silent in his chambers, refusing food, barely blinking. The death of his grandfather had shattered what little strength he had. The realm had pinned its hopes on him, but he was just a child, and everyone knew it now. Power had a new vacancy, and vultures were circling. Tyrion stood at the edge of Tywin's chamber, staring at the empty chair by the fire. That chair had been the seat of power, of terror, of legacy. Now it meant nothing. Jaime stood beside him, grief carved deep into his face. But not for his father. He had it coming, Tyrion muttered. Jaime didn't answer. He built an empire of fear, Tyrion continued, and died choking on it. Fitting, really? He still held this family together, Jaime finally said. Tyrion looked at him. Did he? Or did he just keep us all afraid of falling apart? Jaime didn't argue. Because Tyrion was right. In the Queen's Tower, Cersei sat before a mirror, combing her hair with slow, deliberate strokes. Her face was calm, but her eyes were wild, like storm clouds hiding thunder. She had killed her father. She had saved her name. And now only one enemy remained, Margaery Tyrell, the snake in silk. The girl smiling too sweetly, the one who had slithered her way back into Tommen's favor the moment Tywin died. Now she was whispering to the boy every morning, visiting him every evening, coiling herself around the throne like ivy. Cersei knew how that story ended. If she waited, she'd be cast aside, replaced, forgotten, so she wouldn't wait. She ordered Qyburn to begin preparations for a trial. A holy trial. She would accuse Margaery of fornication, treason, and heresy. It didn't need to be true. It only needed to sound true. She would cleanse the court, the Tyrells, and anyone who thought she was weak. She wasn't done, not yet, but the real storm was no longer inside the Red Keep. It was at sea. Daenerys Targaryen had arrived in Westeros, but she had not come alone. Her fleet, powered by the Ironborn, approached the coast, black sails stretching like wings across the water. Dragons flew overhead, casting shadows that made small folk fall to their knees in terror. In her council room aboard the flagship, Daenerys stood over a map of Westeros. "Lannisters fighting Lannisters," said Tyrion's old ally, Varys, who now served her. "The old lion is dead. The cubs fight over scraps. There has never been a better time." "And what of the people?" Dany asked. "They are leaderless," Varys replied. "They need a queen," she nodded, her eyes burning with calm fire. "Then give them one." The first cities to fall were quiet ones, small ports that welcomed her without resistance. No one raised a sword. The gold cloaks there had heard what happened in the capital. They saw what flew in the skies above Daenerys. They didn't fight. They bent the knee, but King's Landing would be different. That city had known dragons before, and it had burned before. Inside the capital, chaos returned. Tyrion received word of Dany's landing and called for Jaime in private. "She has dragons, ships, armies," Tyrion warned. "And the realm is leaderless. We must bend the knee," Jaime shook his head. "Bend to a Targaryen. Better than letting Cersei rule through madness and fire." Jaime's jaw tightened. "You saw what she did to father. What makes you think she won't do worse to Daenerys?" Tyrion leaned in. "Because Daenerys isn't our family. And that's exactly why she might save this realm from us. In the final days, Cersei made her move. She arrested Margaery, called for her trial, lined the Sept of Baelor with her loyal guards. But history has a cruel sense of humor, because before the trial could begin, before the bell could ring, the sky cracked open with dragonfire. Drogon descended like a meteor, flames pouring from his jaws. The high Sept shattered under the heat. Screams filled the city. Cersei stood at her balcony watching it burn, and for a moment she smiled. It reminded her of what she once said. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die, and she had already chosen her ending. Jaime found her at last, standing where their father once stood, in the Chamber of the Hand. "Alone. You're going to die here," he said. She nodded, and then let it be with pride. The walls shook as dragonfire hit the Red Keep again. Jaime took her hand. They did not speak again. The next morning, Daenerys entered the ruined throne room. Ash fell like snow. The Iron Throne, half melted, stood jagged and silent. Tyrion stepped in beside her. "They're gone," he said. "All of them." She didn't answer. She just walked toward the throne, running her fingers over its sharp edges. Then she turned to Tyrion. "Now we begin again. The lions are dead. The throne is fire, and from ashes a queen rises."